There's a war happening every single day, not outside you, but within. It doesn't show up in headlines or broadcasts, but it quietly determines your future. This war is between the mind that wants growth and the one that fears it. Between focus and distraction, between discipline and impulse, and the only way you win that war is by learning to control your mind. Awareness is the silent force that precedes all meaningful change. It's not loud, it doesn't demand attention, but it is the foundation of all growth. Without awareness, patterns repeat themselves. Without awareness, the same mistakes are made over and over, the same doubts win, and the same insecurities drive the narrative. To truly begin mastering your mind, awareness must come first. It's the moment you step outside your thoughts and observe them, instead of being consumed by them. This shift changes everything. Most people go through life reacting rather than responding. They experience a trigger, a thought, a feeling, and they react. That's because they're unaware of what's happening inside them. But when you're aware, you create space between the stimulus and your response. In that space lies the power to choose. This is where self-mastery begins. Instead of being swept away by emotion or impulse, awareness lets you pause, understand, and move with intention. Awareness is the light that reveals the shadows of your mind. It brings to the surface what you usually ignore, the limiting beliefs, the subconscious fears, the quiet self. Sabotage. You start to notice how often you doubt yourself, how easily you're thrown off course, how quickly you chase validation. You begin to catch the internal narrative that tells you you're not good enough, not ready, not worthy. And in that noticing, something powerful happens. You stop being a victim of your thoughts, and you start becoming their observer. This observation is not judgment. It's not about labeling yourself as weak or broken. It's about seeing clearly. You can't improve what you won't acknowledge. If you're unaware of how your mind operates, how can you expect to direct it? Most people think their thoughts are truth, but many thoughts are nothing more than echoes of the past old voices, outdated fears, and inherited patterns. Awareness gives you the ability to interrupt them, question them, and replace them with clarity. With awareness, you learn the difference between a reaction and a response. A reaction is automatic. It's your programming, your default. A response is conscious. It's your power, and that power grows with practice. The more you pay attention, the more you catch yourself in the act. You catch yourself about to give up. You catch yourself hesitating when you need to act. You catch yourself shrinking when you should be standing tall. Every moment you catch yourself is a victory because it means you're no longer asleep to your own behavior. Cultivating awareness takes time and intentionality. It's built through practices like reflection, journaling, meditation, or simply asking yourself better questions. What am I feeling right now? Why did I react that way? Is this thought helping me or holding me back? These small moments of inquiry are not small at all. They are mental weightlifting. Every time you choose observation over reaction, you're building the muscle of awareness. Once that muscle strengthens, everything changes. You begin to live on purpose. You become less controlled by mood and more anchored in values. You stop looking outward for answers and start trusting the wisdom within. You respond with wisdom rather than emotion. You make decisions with intention rather than fear. Your energy becomes less chaotic and more focused. That is the power of awareness. It's not flashy, but it is revolutionary. The greatest freedom comes when you realize you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. From that place, you are no longer a prisoner of your mind. You are its master. And every step forward, every bit of growth, every transformation starts here. With awareness, you are not your thoughts. This truth, though simple in its phrasing, holds immense power. Every day, thousands of thoughts run through your mind, some helpful, some harmful, many random, and most uninvited. They arrive from past experiences, fears, insecurities, dreams, and even societal conditioning. But just because a thought enters your mind doesn't make it true, and it certainly doesn't define who you are. The mind is a tool, but without awareness, it can become a tyrant. It's important to remember that thoughts are mental events, not absolute truths. Often, thoughts seem so loud and convincing that they are mistaken for facts. The inner critic that says you're not good enough, the fear that whispers you will fail, the memory that plays on repeat, convincing you that your best days are behind you. But these are not the voice of your soul. They're the noise of your conditioning. Just because a thought feels real doesn't mean it is. The power comes when you pause and ask, is this thought serving me? When you learn to observe your thoughts instead of absorbing them, you gain freedom. The space between you and your thoughts is where transformation happens. In that space, you recognize that while thoughts are happening, they are not you. They are not your identity. If you can notice a thought, then clearly there is a part of you that is separate from it. That part, the observer, is your awareness, your higher self, your grounded presence. From that place, you can make conscious choices instead of reacting impulsively. You gain the ability to respond with clarity rather than be dragged by every mental impulse. It's easy to get caught in thought loops, especially negative ones. Self-doubt, judgment, regret, and anxiety often spin endlessly when left unchecked. They can create an entire reality that feels suffocating. But when you remember you are not your thoughts, you start to see through the illusion. You recognize that just because you think something doesn't mean you have to believe it. You don't have to agree with every internal voice that speaks up. In fact, some of those voices were never yours to begin with. They were inherited, implanted, or born out of pain. Your power lies in the ability to detach from those thoughts, not by ignoring them or pretending they don't exist, but by seeing them for what they are: temporary mental events. They pass through like clouds in the sky, and you are the sky itself, vast, steady, untouched. A thought that once crippled you with fear loses its grip when you simply say, I see you, but I don't accept you as truth. With practice, that detachment becomes strength. You stop over-identifying with emotions. You stop letting your inner world be dictated by fleeting narratives. This doesn't mean you no longer think, or that thinking is bad. It means you become selective with what you entertain. You start filtering thoughts like a wise gatekeeper, allowing in what uplifts and dismissing what drains. You begin using the mind as a tool rather than being used by it. Creativity flows better, decisions become clearer, and peace returns. Not because the mind is silent, but because you're no longer its prisoner. True freedom is not found in controlling every thought that enters your head, but in remembering you are the one who observes them. That awareness alone is enough to shift your entire experience. You are not your fears, not your doubts, not your anger, not your shame. You are the awareness behind them all. The more you live from that awareness, the more grounded, clear, and powerful you become. You stop chasing external validation and start living from inner knowing. And in that shift, life opens up in ways it never could when you were caught in the illusion that every thought was the truth. Discipline over impulse is the foundation of transformation. In a world that constantly invites quick gratification, immediate reactions, and emotional indulgence, choosing discipline is an act of quiet rebellion. Impulse wants the now. Comfort, release, a hit of dopamine. Discipline wants the long term. Growth results mastery. The moment you choose discipline over impulse, you start building a life with structure, clarity, and intention. Impulse is reactive. It's born in the heat of the moment, often driven by emotion or desire without considering consequence. It tells you to scroll instead of work, speak instead of reflect, eat instead of nourish, quit instead of continue. It offers ease but rarely brings peace. It thrives on short-term pleasure and avoids discomfort. But the truth is that the very discomfort you avoid is where your strength is forged. Discipline is proactive. It's not just about restriction or control, it's about alignment. It asks you to pause and remember your values. It invites you to take action in the direction of who you want to become, not just how you feel in the moment. While impulse screams for relief, discipline quietly offers integrity, and every time you choose discipline, you're not just making a better decision, you're becoming a stronger version of yourself. The challenge is that impulse often feels natural. It's a survival response built into the nervous system. The brain craves safety and ease, so it gravitates toward habits and patterns that feel good right now. But those habits often sabotage the bigger picture. Discipline requires effort, and effort often means discomfort. But discomfort is not danger, it's a sign that you're stepping outside the limits of your conditioning. Every day presents countless opportunities to choose. Wake up or hit snooze, speak kindly or react in anger, follow through or give up. Each moment of choice is a micro battle between who you've been and who you're becoming. And the more you win those battles, the more you build confidence, not because you feel good all the time, but because you trust yourself to act with purpose. Discipline builds momentum. It starts with one choice: to move when it's easier to stay still, to delay gratification when it's easier to indulge. And from that one choice, habits form, routines strengthen, identity shifts. You stop relying on motivation, which comes and goes, and start leaning on commitment, which stays. Discipline removes emotion from the equation and replaces it with intention. You don't need to feel like it. You just need to honor your standard. Impulse will always be there. It doesn't disappear because you're strong. It becomes less powerful because you stop feeding it. When you create distance between thought and action, you create room for wisdom. That space is where discipline lives. It's in the pause, the breath, the moment you decide to act with vision instead of react from emotion. There's also freedom in discipline. It might seem counterintuitive, but true freedom is not doing whatever you want whenever you want. It's the ability to choose what serves you most, even when it's hard. Freedom is not found in indulgence, but in restraint, not in escape, but in alignment. Discipline creates freedom because it gives you control over your outcomes, your time, your mind, and ultimately, your life. Choosing discipline over impulse is a daily decision. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about knowing that every choice writes your story, and every act of discipline becomes a brick in the foundation of a life you're proud to build. You'll fall sometimes, give in sometimes, but the power lies in getting up, choosing again, and remembering that long-term joy is worth infinitely more than short-term relief. Focus is your greatest asset because it directs your time, energy, and attention toward what truly matters. In a world overloaded with distractions, constant noise, and endless demands, the ability to concentrate on one meaningful pursuit is rare and powerful. Focus filters out the irrelevant and brings clarity to the essential. It is the tool that allows you to build momentum, accomplish goals, and create a life of purpose. Without focus, energy becomes scattered. You may start many things but finish few. You may chase what's urgent rather than what's important. Distraction disguises itself as productivity, pulling you in countless directions with little depth or impact. But when you choose focus, you create depth. You give your full presence to what you're doing, and that depth leads to mastery. It leads to fulfillment because you are no longer drifting. You are directing. Focus is not just about attention, it is about intention. It's choosing to align your actions with your priorities. It's the daily decision to say no to the things that dilute your power, so you can say yes to the things that strengthen it. This often requires discomfort, closing tabs, turning off notifications, stepping back from noise. But that discomfort is the gateway to freedom, because when you control your focus, you control your outcomes. Focus sharpens over time. It's like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you train it, and training it requires discipline. Not everything that calls for your attention deserves your energy. Not every invitation needs an RSVP. Focus gives you the permission to protect your space, your peace, your progress. It teaches you that doing less with more intention is far more impactful than doing more with less clarity. When you focus, you move with momentum, you finish what you start, you build confidence because you prove to yourself that your word matters, you stop measuring progress by busyness and start measuring it by results. Distraction might make you feel busy, but focus makes you effective. There's a difference between motion and movement. Motion fills time, movement moves you forward. There will always be reasons to get distracted, comparison, doubt, fear, boredom. But focus keeps you grounded. It reminds you that the external noise does not define your internal compass. You don't need to know everything or be everywhere. You need to know where you're going and what it takes to get there. Focus makes your vision real because it turns ideas into action and dreams into disciplines. Focus is also what sustains you when motivation fades. You won't always feel inspired, but when you're clear on your goal and locked in on your process, you don't need external fire. You have internal direction. That kind of consistency compounds. Focus turns effort into excellence, repetition into rhythm, and time into transformation. You become what you focus on. If you focus on lack, you will live in scarcity. If you focus on growth, you will find opportunity. Focus is how you filter the world and shape your reality. It is your greatest asset because it is the foundation of every result you want to create. Guard it fiercely, train it daily, use it wisely, because the moment you fully commit your focus to something meaningful, everything begins to change. Mental control builds resilience because it gives you the power to decide how you respond when life challenges you. It's not about ignoring emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about mastering your inner dialogue so you don't get swept away by chaos. When your mind is grounded, your spirit stays steady, even when everything around you seems uncertain. That steadiness is what turns obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into strength. Every difficult situation tests your mental stability before it tests anything else. Pain, rejection, loss, failure, these don't just challenge your circumstances, they challenge your mindset. If your mind crumbles under pressure, your body follows. But when your mind is disciplined, when you learn how to observe your thoughts rather than react to them blindly, you gain something unshakable, inner strength. And from that strength, resilience is born. Mental control begins with awareness. You can't control what you don't notice. Most people let their thoughts run wild, unchecked, unchallenged, and constantly shifting. They become victims of their inner voice, especially when it's loudest during fear or fatigue. But you are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them, and when you step into that role, you reclaim your power. You become the one who chooses what to believe, what to focus on, and how to act. Resilience doesn't mean never feeling weak or afraid. It means knowing how to navigate those moments without letting them define you. Mental control gives you that navigation system. It tells you this is hard, but it's not the end. It reminds you that your current emotion is not your forever identity. It helps you create distance between stimulus and response, which is where all your freedom lies. In that space, you can choose patience over panic, clarity over confusion, and growth over victimhood. The strongest people aren't necessarily the loudest or the most outwardly confident. They are the ones who have learned to manage their minds when no one's watching. They keep showing up not because they don't struggle, but because they've built a mindset that refuses to surrender. Mental control teaches you to delay gratification, to hold the line when comfort is calling you back, and to stay focused on long-term outcomes instead of short-term relief. Mental discipline also fuels emotional intelligence. You begin to respond instead of react. You become less triggered, more thoughtful, and more grounded in your values. That kind of stability not only helps you, it inspires others. You become the calm in the storm, the steady presence in chaos, and that stability is what resilience looks like in motion. Building mental control takes practice. It requires choosing your thoughts like you choose your clothes, intentionally, not impulsively. It's meditation when you'd rather scroll, journaling when you'd rather vent, showing up when you'd rather hide. It's doing what's right even when it's not easy because you've trained your mind to lead instead of follow. Every time you do that, you build mental muscle, and over time, that muscle turns into armor, not to shut the world out, but to stay strong within it. Life will always test you. That's a given. But when you've built mental control, you stop fearing those tests. You welcome them, not because they're easy, but because you know they're shaping you into someone stronger, clearer, and more capable. Resilience isn't gifted, it's forged, and the fire that forges it is the one your mind learns to walk through, not just with toughness, but with purpose. Mental control doesn't remove the storms. It teaches you how to weather them and thrive. Your mind is powerful, but it's also impressionable. If you don't take the lead, it will follow whatever is loudest: fear, doubt, distraction, or the opinions of others. You can't afford to let your mind drift on autopilot. It needs direction, and that direction must come from you. Waiting for motivation or clarity before taking charge is like waiting for a river to stop flowing before you build a bridge. Your mind doesn't need to be in the perfect state to be led. It needs your decision to lead it. The mind is constantly taking in information, making assumptions, spinning stories, and shaping your perception of reality. But if you're not intentional about how you direct it, it will pull you toward comfort instead of growth, toward excuses instead of effort, toward safety instead of significance. Leading your mind means giving it a mission, one rooted in your values, your vision, and the life you want to create, not the one you're afraid to lose. It starts with self-awareness. You must become a student of your own thoughts. Pay attention to the inner dialogue that shows up when you're tired, challenged, or triggered. Notice the patterns, what you say to yourself when you're on the verge of quitting, how you rationalize procrastination, how you frame failure. This isn't about judging yourself. It's about knowing the landscape you're working with so you can navigate it deliberately. You can't shift what you refuse to see. Leading your mind also means speaking to yourself like someone worth leading. You don't need to be cruel to be disciplined. Harshness doesn't build resilience. Clarity does. You don't need more criticism in your head. You need more conviction. The words you feed your mind shape the way it sees the world and your place in it. If you constantly tell yourself you're not ready, not worthy, or not capable, your mind will find evidence to confirm it. But if you speak from purpose and possibility, your mind will align with that too. Consistency matters more than intensity. Leading your mind isn't about one breakthrough moment. It's about showing up every day with a decision to guide it, especially when you don't feel like it. When doubt creeps in, you lead. When fear whispers lies, you lead. When the path gets blurry or difficult, you don't wait for circumstances to clear up. You lead. You remind your mind who you are, what matters, and what you're building toward. Over time, this becomes your new baseline. Not panic, but poise. Not chaos, but clarity. When you lead your mind, you stop being reactive. You no longer bounce between extremes based on how things feel. You create a stable internal environment, and from that stability, your external results improve. This is how focus is protected, how dreams are pursued, and how character is built. Not by chance, but by choice. The truth is, no one else can lead your mind for you. People can inspire you, guide you, challenge you, but leadership begins within. You must be the one who decides what gets attention and what gets ignored, what gets pursued and what gets left behind. Your energy, your time, and your focus are too valuable to be directed by fear or distraction. Your mind will serve you well, but only if you give it strong, steady leadership. The future doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to those who have trained their minds to work for them, not against them, to those who show up with intention, no matter how they feel. Leading your mind is not about control, it's about alignment. It's about bringing your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions into harmony with your deepest values. That's where power lives. That's where transformation begins. and that's how you become unstoppable. Leading your mind is the foundation of true personal power. When you take charge of your thoughts and guide them with intention, you break free from fear, doubt, and distraction. It's not about perfection or never struggling. It's about consistently choosing to steer your mind toward purpose and growth. This inner leadership creates clarity, resilience, and focus, shaping the life you want rather than one dictated by circumstance. Remember, no one else can lead your mind for you. The choice to lead starts within. Embrace that responsibility, and you unlock the unstoppable strength to create lasting transformation.